Hello everyone, my name is Lucas and welcome back to part 2 of the Survival World Tours series. I decided to cut up the last episode into two different parts just because the last episode was getting very long and the final recording ended up being about 24 minutes, so I decided to cut that up into this video you're seeing right now. Anyways, enough said. I hope you enjoyed the video and let's get into it. So the very next thing I wanted to touch on real quick is how I actually managed to light this up without excessive use of torches, and that is through the use of that pumpkin farm that I had back in the industrial district. I combined them with torches, and then I turned them into jack-o'-lanterns, and just used gray carpets to cover them just because they blended nicely with the smooth stone that I chose to use with the floor. Up here, I wanted to add futuristic factory looking lights just because that's sort of the vibe that I went for with this futuristic looking base and interior. So I basically just used end rods and iron trapdoors in order to get that sort of factory look. Over here, this is from when I did an end raid back in I think it was election day. I did this huge end raid, but I've been using the shulker boxes a lot recently. You probably saw them back at the industrial district, so the pile used to be much larger. And back over here, that seems to be all that I have over here. I sort of had a ton of trouble trying to figure out the design for this center. I originally had a much smaller but much more modern, much less rustic design that I had back in here, but the storage system got way too small. I didn't even have any space to add the auto sorters at all that I wanted to add, which was definitely a huge flaw. So I tore that down, went into a creative test world, and I designed this big monstrosity, which surprisingly took me not a lot of time to set up. I went really fast with that, and I really like how it turned out. Some parts of it are still not finished. All the item sorters are finished. Basically all I have to do is I just have to figure out where I want to put each item in, and then I have to plug in the water stream so that all four of these storage modules are now all connected up. Over here, this is sort of my main area. It's up. I have an anvil, bed, my ender chest, of course. I have extra gear too. I have a clock, and this was the very first bow of the world that I aptly named David Bowie, because why not? And over here, this is the main area where I cook my food. Right outside, I'll get to that eventually, but I have I have a cow crusher food farm. It's a Waddles design. I'll definitely go over there and show it. And I sort of have this nice little pile of barrels. Just because it looks very nice, and I definitely took care to light everything up around in this area, so that's why you see tons and tons of lanterns. I literally went over every single block, and I made sure that it was all properly lit up. But it was worth it in the end. Over here, tucked in the corner, because I haven't really found a good place to put it, is the dragon egg of this world, and this is also my very first dog. And over here, this is where I keep, my villager trading stuff, so extra enchanted books that I may need. But I think that's it for the interior. Over here, I have gigantic rows and rows of sweet berry farms. I sort of added this not for functionality. I don't have too much of a use for sweet berries aside from fox breeding, of course. I just decided to add them for aesthetics, and this was tons and tons and tons and tons of spruce trapdoors. From all of the spruce that I've had to farm, there has to be dozens of hours of just spruce tree farming for all of the spruce wood that I've used in there, all around here, and for all these trapdoors, because I'm a huge fan of spruce wood. think it looks very nice. Over here, this is sort of like where I went and terraformed it. You see, it was kind of difficult to originally terraform this back in March 2020 when I originally started this project. There was kind of a huge hill over here, and there was an entire mountain over there on the west side of the area. So that took a long time to clean up, a long time to clear out, just because I didn't have a beacon at that time, which was unfortunate. So it took ages to clear out. So this is sort of the main path that I made for this. I really like how this turned out. I sort of took care to add a lot of detail by, you know, scattering the path blocks, adding some coarse dirt, oak slabs, so I can easily get up and down blocks easily. And so over here, around here, I have some barrels scattered on each side, just in case for when I want to harvest the sweet berries. I will just put them inside the barrels. Over here, this is sort of like my mining quarry area. If I fly down here real quick. So I have another beacon set down here, and this is my huge mining quarry. This is where I go to harvest any like redstone or diamonds or lapis or anything like that. This is sort of where I go and I mine out this whole area. For that, over on that side, there is a huge slime farm I had. I'll go ahead and go over there. I think there's an entrance, yep, right here. So this is my huge slime farm. So how this works, this is also another Waddle's design. I use a lot of his designs from his Minecraft Guide World Season 1, I believe. But basically, how this works is this is a slime chunk. It's basically like on Y40 and below. This is where slimes like to spawn, and then the iron golems lure them off this edge, and then they fall down there and get burnt. Okay, so aside from that, and aside from my creeper farm, of course, I think that is all there is to see in the entirety of this area. So let's go ahead and go back into the Nether so we can continue the tour. Okay, so coming out into the Nether, we're back in this sort of glass tunnel that cuts through the entirety of this open part of the Nether. And over here we have this, what looks like a very weird looking biome cutoff in this area. And that is because for 1.16, for that 1.16 update, I actually reset the chunks around the entirety of this gigantic ice pathway. So I did that because I wanted to get the new 1.16 stuff closer to my base and closer to everything else, so I wouldn't have to travel as far. And so that is why there's this weird cutoff line going horizontally this way. And that is also why I have half of a bastion, because a bastion happened to generate here with the world seed, but then these chunks are older chunks, and then those are newer, so the bastion ended up getting cut almost exactly in half. So that is why that looks pretty janky. But if we go right down this pathway, there is more to see. Okay, so we hit another sort of crossroads over here, and over here, this is the way to my second Nether fortress and to my main stronghold of this world. So I actually have 2 strongholds in this world. I decided to have another one because I wanted to build yet another project over by that second one. Like, I wanted to have a sort of like open air end portal to that. So that is why there is a second one, but I never got around to doing that. I'm not sure if I ever will. But going through here, we can see, yes, this is the first end portal stronghold room of the world. And if we go in here, we will of course end up in the end. Okay, so coming through the end, over here, this is my most recent project actually, and this is actually covering the entirety of this main end island in Netherrack. So what I did is I got inspired by the works of IBX Toycat once again. So what I did first is I made sure that all of the end portals and gateways around the center of the ring were all filled in, so I have all 20, because I mean, if I were to place down all this netherrack and I decided that I need to spawn in the ender dragon again, well, then the ender dragon would destroy all this work, because, you know, it flies through blocks, and netherrack is, of course, not ender dragon proof. So what I did is I went around, I beat the ender dragon 19 more times, and then I placed down all this netherrack. And as you may see, there are a bunch of missing patches. Like, I need to get the entirety of this area down here and several other patches around the end. So that is probably something that I need to work on next. But this project sort of has reached a standstill because I haven't been playing on this world that much in the last couple months, especially before 1.17 update. But over here in the center, this is where I usually go to fight the wither. So what I do is I basically just spawn the wither in right here. Its head gets trapped in the bedrock, and then I could just swing away with my sword and then farm nether stars. And over here, this is sort of the patch where I've begun to light up the whole thing. So I've spaced everything out about 5 blocks in between, so it covers a nice even surface. But I ran out of torches, and I haven't really been farming that much coal. So I'll definitely need to go back in here later and finish up the netherrack and then the torches. Over here, this is where I originally farmed endermen in this world. I did that for a little bit of XP back in the early days, but I no longer have to use that, because just down here, if we fly over here on this very precarious pathway, is my enderman farm. So how this works is that the endermen, they spawn up there on this dark platform, you see, and then there's an endermite in a minecart trapped up there, and then basically what it does is it lures the endermen towards the center, and then the endermen fall down the center, and then they end up over here where I swing away with my sword, and then I kill them for XP and lots of ender pearls. And by a lot, I mean a lot. So over here on both sides, I set up this little circuit because this always tends to overflow a lot, as you can probably see over there. But it always tends to overflow, so I just have some repeating clocks which go back and forth and drop the ender pearls into the void. And it also prevents this area from getting way too laggy, because as you see, some of the ender pearls, they end up on the platform itself and not the hoppers underneath the carpet right there, and that tends to be a pretty big issue. Any other ender pearls that stay in there, they get picked up by the hoppers, and then they get brought over here where they can be thrown into the void to reduce lag. But aside from that, that is all there is to see in my end, and let's go back to the overworld. Okay, so passing this first tunnel on the right, we come to another tunnel on the left. This is the tunnel where my second stronghold and the gravel mountains sort of raid farm area is. So over here, I actually won't go to the second stronghold because there's nothing really to see there. I haven't done too much over there, except from filling the eyes of Ender into the portal frame. But going through this portal, we come into the sort of area where I go to farm spruce wood, and then over to the left, that is where I go to spawn raids in. As you can see from the many raid banners you will see flying around this town. Most of the villagers are unfortunately gone because a few of them failed to get inside, even though I placed blocks on their doors so they couldn't pathfind outside. Unfortunately, that didn't do too much to save them. So much of the population is gone, but I think there's a couple of villagers still left where I could still farm raids. So, and then over here, you will see this massive sort of like empty pit area, and this is where I go to farm gravel. So I need a lot of gravel for the mega base that you saw earlier in the early days of, like, you know, February, March 2020. So I was over here a lot, farming a lot of gravel for that concrete, and then of course I used the resource desert at my spawn area for all of that sand. So now you know where all the materials for those two projects came in. And back over this way, there is a definite lack of forest. The forest used to stretch all the way this way, but it's been very, very farly pushed back, and there isn't that much left of it, especially in this area. It's growing rather thin. Once I get rid of this area, if I need any more wood, which I'll probably do because I use spruce wood a lot, I'll probably have to go across the river and go farm some more stuff over there. But yeah, I definitely go here to farm spruce wood a lot because I don't exactly want to farm spruce wood in my mega base area because that would ruin the appeal of the biome if none of the trees were there, especially the trawl one. And coming in here, this is sort of like the fox breeding pen. This is where I go to breed my foxes if I need them for any like sweet berry farms or anything. I have 4 over at the base, and there appears to be a cave down there somewhere that may need to light up. But aside from that, basically what I do is I just throw the berries into this boat, and then surprisingly they do still breed in boats. I was pretty surprised to find that out. So the baby, they get trapped in here. They can't climb into the boat, obviously, because there's already 2 entities in the boat. So it just sits around. Then what I can do is I can just put it on the lead, and if I need to go do something out there, I just tie it to this fence over here. And yeah, that's sort of it for this area. Actually, I'll go ahead and head back into the nether. So the next major thing that I wanted to show you here in the nether is my first and main nether fortress. This was the very first one that I went to in the early days of this world, and it's the one I still go to farm my wither skulls, and I have a blaze farm over here. So this is an exposed blaze spawner. There is another one over there on the far side. So what happens is that the blaze, they spawn inside the spawner. This is a 9x9 room, and we may hear them getting caught in there. And I'm on fire now, so let's go down here. But so what they do is they spawn, there's pistons up here that sort of form a little funnel. So they get brought down here and then pushed into the single block where I can go swing at them with my sword, and I can farm their blaze rods, which I am starting to definitely use as fuel because I use a ton of coal and charcoal for torches. And there's nothing else in this sort of nether fortress area except these little horizontal pillars that I place over the intersections, and that is because wither skeletons are 3 blocks tall. I'm not, so I can easily go underneath here, and then the wither skeletons would get stuck behind here because they're too tall. So I will be safe even if I'm surrounded on all sides by wither skeletons. But that's pretty much it over here. As you can see, this is that nether tunnel that I was in. I decided to cover it with netherrack because it's a lot safer. I didn't want blazes to be shooting at me while I'm traveling down a boat. But over here, it's fine to do that without a sort of cover. And that is because this is my super long pathway that goes to the nearest mesa biome in this world. And yes, the nearest mesa biome is 20,000 blocks away. Well, the nearest good one at least, because the one that I decided to go to has a mesa Bryce, which is basically the mesa biome, but it has a ton of really cool spires. So that's why I decided to choose that one over any other smaller one in the vicinity. But the smaller ones are pretty far away anyways, so it doesn't really matter that much. Over here, behind the stairs, this is my tunnel that goes down to what I call the main nether quarry of this world. So basically down here, it has a pretty long tunnel that stretches into the new 1.16 reset chunks of this world. As you can see down here, this is actually the line. This wall right here is actually the line between old chunks and new chunks. You can see that by pretty much only netherrack and quartz spawning over here, but over here you have blackstone and nether gold ore spawning, like right here. This isn't exactly where I went to farm ancient debris exactly. You see, I excavated this this huge area because I needed that ton of netherrack that I needed for the end project, covering the end island project. So that is why there's this huge 3-block tall tunnel that goes here. But if we go up here, this is actually my quarry that I have going on. Basically what happens over here is I set a bed down. I right click it because obviously, as you know, beds explode in the nether, you can't sleep in them. So that is exactly what happens over there, and I'm about to be killed by a but it's pretty extensive. It goes for quite a while down that way. So I sort of had it run parallel to this new chunk boundary right here, but I have gotten a great deal of ancient debris out of this mine. I don't know if I just have a lot of luck when it comes to that thing, but I have gotten quite an amount of ancient debris. So I have a ton of extra netherite tools and armor and stuff like that. Alright everyone, that's going to be it for this world tour. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like, and if you really enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. And aside from that, I'll see you later.